All right, in this example, I'm going to be demonstrating a thing called the switch. A switch is like an if statement. It's really good if you have a lot of individual options or individual choices you want to have. And I'm going to show you how this thing works. So inside of NetBeans here, I'm going to go to File, New Project, Java Application, and let's call this thing Switch Example. Switch Example, and when we get in here, I'm just going to get rid of some of my default comments here, just like we always do. Okay, now what I'm going to do inside of here, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a string called animal choice, and I'm also going to create a scanner object. So scanner input equals new scanner, and then system.in. I'm going to fix my imports here. Yep. All right. Now the idea here is I'm going to ask the user to basically pick an animal from sorry, I didn't want a string. I want an int is what I want. Int. I want an int. And I'm going to ask them if their favorite animal is a dog, a cat, a horse, or a fish. And depending on what they say, I'm going to get them to display different answers. So let's start with that. So we're going to ask the question first. So system out println, please, or select the number of your favorite animal from the following menu, colon. And then I'm going to print out 1 is going to be for dog. And then I'm going to print out 2 is for cat. Three is for horse. And 4 is for fish. So just like that. So I'm going to run it just so you see what that output looks like right now. Okay, so this is basically what it looks like. You can shorten this down. You don't need to do it as in so many lines. Like what you could do, for example, is an enter. The symbol for an enter is that's /n. So /n is a character term, which is also known as an enter. So you could do something like this, for example. Just keep putting /n's where you want the enters. /n again. So we could do that, and it will actually look the same. I'll just comment these out to show you. So it'll say 1-dog, then it's an enter, 2-cat, then it's 3-horse, 4-fish. It should look the same. And it does. So we can optimize our code by using a single print instead of 4 different ones. So let's do that. Now, we've got our menu up here. I'm just going to get it to say, or selection or something like that. And this time I'm using print and not println. And in that way, it'll say selection here and I can type my answer. Now, let's go input equals, animal choice. Animal choice equals input dot next int is what we want. Okay. So let's see if this looks the way we want. Perfect. So that's what we want. So now, right now it doesn't do anything. We're basically going to do a switch statement on this animal choice now. Okay, so what we normally would do is something like this. If animal choice equals 1, that's the dog, then you do something, right? That's how you would normally do it. With a switch, though, it's going to look like this. We're going to write switch, bracket, animal choice. I'm going to put a curly bracket here. Now, inside of this, so I'll write it first and explain what's happening here. I'm going to write case 1, colon, and here I'm going to say system out println your favorite animal is a dog. And then right here, I'm going to write break. Okay, and then I'm going to go back, and I'm going to go case 2. And then do system out println, your favorite animal is a cat. And then break again. And I'll do case 3 and case 4. Case 3, colon. And this is a colon, not a semicolon. There's a difference here. This is a colon. System out println, our favorite animal is a horse. And then break. And then case 4. Your favorite animal is a fish. Oops. And then break. Okay. So this is exactly what our switch needs to look like right now. So basically what happens is once we get into the command, we say switch animal choice. What that's basically telling Java to do is, hey, let's examine this variable here. That's what it's basically doing. And then case 1 means if animal choice is 1, like if that's the answer, if it's a 1, then we're going to run the code right here. So it's a system out, prints out favorite animal as a dog, and then break. What this command does is it actually breaks out of the switch. It gets out, and it would actually start running code right here. Okay, but I have nothing underneath it, so there's nothing else happening. If you don't put the break command in, I'm going to show you what happens. So let me just show you it works first, and then I'm going to show you a couple things extra here. Okay, so let's do a selection here. Let's do a dog. Prints out favorite animal is dog, right? Okay, I'm going to remove the break. Watch what happens here. If I run it again, it doesn't give me an error without the break, right? It still runs. I'm going to select a dog, but it says my favorite animal is a dog, and then it also says cat. So what'll happen is it'll jump into here, and it'll just keep going without the break. So it immediately will print out your favorite animal is a cat, right? So that's why we need to have these breaks in here. This basically, because normally with things you have a curly bracket at the start and a curly bracket at the end, right? But with the switch command, you put an actual colon here, and the way you exit out of it is you use a break instead. It's a bit of a dated sort of mechanism, but some people still use this. And it's really, really good if you've got a lot of different options. Like, you know, if you're going to do the numbers from 1 to 10, for example, it would be really good to use a switch for a scenario like that. So this is basically the structure of how it works. So they all work. If I pick horse, it should say horse, no problem. There isn't really much of an advantage to doing this versus an if statement, except maybe if you had a lot of different options, it may be a little bit simpler and cleaner to make it look like that. Now, what happens if we get something like a mistake? Like, what if somebody typed in 5, right? Well, 5 does nothing because there's no case 5, right? But what if we want to make a scenario sort of like an else? Like if statements usually have else's on them, right? Let's make an else on here so that if anything else happens, we could just say error, right? The way we do that is we make a thing here that says default. And what default does is this is for anything else. Anything else will go here. So if I type 5, it'll go to default. If I type 10, it'll go to default. So anything else is going to go in this section, but they use the command default for that. And I'm just going to get it to say invalid entry or invalid number, just something simple. And I'm also going to get it to break as well. Oops, I need a semicolon there. So the default, this is very much like the else in an if statement. Why is that? Oh, I don't know why I got a quote there too. So let's make sure this thing runs. I'm going to put something incorrect in here. 9, invalid number. What about -1? Invalid number. So it goes down in here. So the default command, if it doesn't fit into any of these 4, it'll say invalid number. So this is basically, it behaves the same way as an if statement really, but it's, like I said, it's not used all the time, but you should know what it is. And again, it's really used if it's a lot of individual choices, like individual exact amounts, like 1, 2, 3, things like that. It's not the greatest if you want to do ranges or strings or anything like that. It's only really good in my experience if it's integers and it's got to be whole numbers like this, and you want to have just individual choices. It's really good for things like menus and stuff like that as well. So anyways, I hope you learned a little bit about the switch and how it works in Java. And again, very similar to an if statement, but you just follow my example, and that should allow you to use the switch command.